Hello, and welcome to Network Spotlight. On today's show, I will be talking to Luke of Trivium. Luke is one of the co founders. He is extremely passionate about privacy. He's worked on projects such as Certup and Blackbox, and is also an advisor to many more, including Alter Network. Majority of the projects that he's working with are within the secret network, just because of his passion for privacy, highly technical, very artistic. We had a great conversation, and I think you'll enjoy. Please subscribe to the channel, support, and enjoy. How you been?
I've been pretty good. A lot of meetings since we got back from Miami, but it comes with the territory of meeting so many people. So yeah, I imagine that you're pretty much the same with that.
Yeah, trying to connect with everybody at Decentral and some really good conversations that came out of it. But ultimately, it's everyone's in the same boat. Everyone's really focused on development, and on the VC side, people are a little hesitant right now, maybe a little bit more picky about where they're putting their, deploying their capital. So that's kind of what I gather from Decentral, but I'm curious to kind of get your thoughts on what transpired.
Well, I will say I think that the quality of projects that are surviving right now are very high. It's kind of like well, I mean, these bear markets, they're survival of the fittest, and the groups that are really devoted to developing some amazing things, they're the ones that are sticking around, and they're the ones that are able to get the capital in these markets. So, and as a result, they're the ones that we get to meet more of at events like that. So I was pretty inspired by some of the cool stuff that we got to see there and some of the people that I interacted with. So, I mean, in my opinion, bear markets are the most exciting times because the bull markets can kind of obfuscate those projects with some of the more hyped up ones that are due to collapse later.
Yeah, this is, I have to say, I mean, I feel like I've been in the space for such a long time, but really, this is my first quote unquote bear market. And I would imagine that people that have been through these multiple times, their perspective is so different because they get a chance to make these connections during the bear market, and then they see how everything comes to fruition during the bull market. And I would imagine it's a different type of bond that you have with somebody versus somebody that came on the scene and just happened to launch something and just trying to ride the trend, so to speak. So I'm excited about, to your point, I'm excited about the bear market as well, and making these connections and seeing how people, what they develop and how that translates to what's to come here in the next few years.
Yeah, it's like a building powder cake, and we're gonna see everything accelerate as soon as we hit the bull market again. Those projects that are building right now are, I think, gonna do pretty well, and I'm excited to see what they make.
What's a trend that you're seeing right now, like in terms of what's being developed?
Um, so this is both a trend that I'm starting to see and kind of a trend that Trivium is trying to pioneer and bring people along with us as well, and that's kind of developments in infrastructure, like let's say communications. Where I don't know if you've interviewed Alter already on one of these, but we're working very closely with them, and they're finding ways to replace things like email and Telegram and stuff like that. And then Trivium specifically is trying to modify existing systems for certifications and diplomas and other important documents. So things, I think that we're really seeing a trend of bringing in Web3 and blockchain to modify the rest of the world's infrastructure rather than just um, very closed systems of DeFi and NFTs that we've seen before. And part of this is because of advents in privacy in blockchain. Like, for example, with the secret network, a lot of this stuff wouldn't be possible without the privacy that secret network provides. Um, And we're only going to see that accelerate as other projects and protocols start coming out with their own privacy solutions as well. We're going to see more and more projects be able to make complex applications that wouldn't have been possible in earlier stages of blockchain development.
That's interesting that your observation is that it's beyond DeFi, because up to this point, I feel like majority of the utility has been around DeFi, and then we went into this NFT world, and there's certainly cases, real use cases for those as well. But you bring up an interesting point. You mentioned a private way to communicate, through Alter Network, and also this way of being able to exchange a certificate. Can you touch a little bit about that and what you're working on at Trivium?
Yeah, so for example, one project that we just launched recently on November 11th, it's called Certup. And what it does is it stores certification documents, well, just important documents in general, like IDs and diplomas, inside of an NFT. And that information in that NFT is encrypted. Um, I mean, everyone thinks of NFTs as like art projects nowadays, but we really see it as is something that can be implemented in a lot of different aspects in life and business in general. Um, the potential is just beginning to be tapped here. So what we did is we made a documents platform with Certup, and you can become an issuer with Certup and distribute documents to people that, like, let's say you're Harvard University or something. Harvard can become an issuer with Certup and then make all of their diplomas for the year, distribute them as NFTs to all of their graduates, and then those graduates, instead of having to pay like $40 to verify that they did indeed graduate from Harvard with the official transcript and everything, it's as simple as just whitelisting an NFT, or whitelisting NFT access to potential employers, and then they can verify that it came from who they say it came from. They can see all the information associated with the diploma, the certificate, whatever credential documents it is that you have on that system. They're all verifiable because it's on blockchain and it's not tamperable.
Okay, interesting. So all of these, well, not universities, but all of the companies that are hiring, you're saying that eventually we'll be at a place where they will all have this ability to be able to prove by verifying the NFT, and the NFT is the degree, for instance, right? The Harvard degree, as you mentioned in your example.
Yeah, or rather, the NFT. We think of NFTs as just a data container, more than just like a picture with a diploma on it. And you can really do whatever you want with the data that you want that can be put inside of those NFTs. You can put anything in there and make it immutable. With privacy comes the ability to put in sensitive information, like you may not want everyone to know. Well, I mean, if you graduate from Harvard, you probably want a lot of people to know. But there are other stuff where, let's say, a social security number or something. You don't want everyone to know what your social security number is. You can put that in there. The ability to implement privacy in these protocols lets us put important documents in NFTs and opens up a lot of opportunity besides just like artwork that everyone can see. It becomes a data container for so much more now that we it's not at risk of being used maliciously if everyone can see it.
And how did you come up with this idea?
Well, we so I'm going to back up a little bit. The Trivium has been very involved in NFTs from very early on the Secret Network. We wrote this. Well, I wrote the smart contract for the first NFT launch on Secret Network before Trivium was even a thing, and then I got together with my business partner Michael, and we co-founded Trivium, and we started putting out like templates and modifications to improve the NFT systems that we already had. Because at the time, anyone who was there for the original launch of that first NFT, it was called a non, so they can tell you that it was kind of a nightmare and not very efficient. So we've been the driving force behind evolving and making the launches more and more efficient and modifying the NFT systems on Secret Network over time. And because we spend so much time around it, we start thinking of very, very creative things to do. And my mindset on this is that if I can not get my parents to use a product, then it's a little bit too niche. And I was trying to think of, well, we were trying to think of things that anyone could find useful outside of DeFi and NFTs. And some, I'm trying to like compile this story a bit in my head. Okay,
Sure.
so one of the things that I like to tell people when I talk about privacy and stuff is that social security numbers, very few people know this, but social security numbers are completely public. If you know someone's place of birth and their birthday, you can go get their social security number. There's no security in place to prevent that. So, because I tell that story so often, we started putting two and two together here, and we were thinking, well, we really want to modify traditional infrastructure instead of something in the DeFi NFT space that's already been running, because we want this other group of people to get into crypto that are more more traditional when their outlooks for technology. And we know that there's a lot of things in that traditional infrastructure that all these people use that are inefficient or almost dangerous with how they handle data security. So we put those two together and designed Certup, which is more efficient and safer. You're not going to have an instance where you can go and look up someone's social security number. Hypothetically, if we started storing them on these things, you couldn't just look them up by knowing someone's birthday and place of birth. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how that came about. We just want to make improvements on the modern world, and that was one of the first things we thought of.
How did you get involved with Secret Network in the first place?
It's a funny story. I actually saw a Coin Bureau video about both Secret Network and Tornado Cash, and I looked up both of them and I thought, well, Secret Network sounds cooler, so I'm gonna go hang out with them for a while. I heard about the whole secret NFT thing, and I was like, oh wow, I'm kind of like into art and drawing. I should hang out and see how this secret NFT thing goes. And of course, no one was developing it. Well, I mean, a couple people were developing it, but there were very few developers at the time at Secret Network. So the answer I got when I started asking, "Hey, when is this thing going to be out? It would be really cool to use." Was, "Why don't you go develop it yourself?" So I started learning how to develop, and we ended up launching the first NFT on Secret Network that way, just kind
Wow.
of
Okay.
bootstrapping it.
So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but is it Cosmwasm that you had to learn in order to develop the smart contracts?
Yeah, so Secret Network is based off of CosmWasm. It's slightly modified, so it's private, but yeah, it uses the same SDK. And then the smart contracts are written in Rust specifically, which I'd never touched that programming language before. I've programmed in the past. My background is in physics and robotics, but for the most part, I've just touched like Python and C++. Rust was an interesting experience, and it's now my favorite programming language after getting into it.
So you mentioned something earlier. You mentioned that you are an artist, and I'm curious to know if, well, maybe not officially, professionally, but you like to paint or like you like to draw, right? That's what you mentioned.
Yeah, I like to draw, and I also do well. Most of my like nice works that I consider beyond just like sketches are actually 3D modeled now. So I use
Okay.
like Blender and stuff. Of course, for three, I'm sure you've heard of like Beeple, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so Beeple, I learned about NFTs through Beeple and a couple other people. I was like, oh man, okay, finally something where I can actually sell digital art, because it's very difficult to do that unless you have like a big physical painting somewhere. No one wants to pay you money for it. So that's kind of how I started moving in that direction for
Mm.
crypto.
Yeah, because I was curious to understand how you go from being, into um, art to now becoming a essentially a developer. But I guess there's a lot of similarities in terms of being able to be very creative in not just the physical art form, but also just from like a creativity standpoint.
Yeah, something I've noticed is that a lot of people in the STEM fields, like for example, in my when I was a physics student, my astrophysics professor actually considered being a musician instead of going into physics. A lot of people in this field have a very heavy leaning towards some art form. There's a lot of crossover there that I've noticed.
So let's jump back to present time. So you've got Certup that you're working on through Trivium. What's next for Certup and what's next for Trivium?
So for Certup specifically, of course, we want to start reaching out to more groups to have them distribute certifications, diplomas, IDs, etc. on our platform. My goal is to get some government organizations to reading on it, because at that point it shows that we're very legit if you have governments trusting our platform. Um, that I'm sure is a long way off because there's a lot of regulation involved with that, but we want to get there. That's our goal. With Trivium specifically, we want to become the creator of like a full privacy suite of things that you could essentially run a nation or run your life on. One of the next things we have planned that we've been discussing is like a two-factor authentication system using blockchain. We actually already have the smart contracts to do something like that. We play around and develop and experiment quite a bit, and the results are sometimes products that are nearly fully fleshed out. So we have a couple of things in the backlog, like a 2FA blockchain system that could be coming sometime very soon, and a few more things that are not fleshed out enough for me to discuss fully. But
Hmm.
the idea being, we want a lot of things that you can just run your life on, do normal day to day business, and just traditional non DeFi NFT things with. Another thing that we're working on is, well, we're working very closely with the Alter Network to build a payment system for their communications. So just built into their communication system, along with sending like emails back and forth to people, you can send money right there. It's all in the same place. That's kind of the sort of thing that we're going for, like an all-inclusive suite of applications and utilities to just exist and run everything on. You could think about it like the decentralized, privacy-focused Google, I guess.
Hmm. So when you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to create a suite of applications that will help run the world, do you ever think to yourself, okay, why does this belong on the blockchain?
Yeah, so we do have to think about that a lot because, to be honest, there are a lot of things that are more efficient just running on traditional Web2 servers, but there are some things that have been proven to be untrustworthy in the hands of certain people. So we want to decentralize those things and make them as private and encrypted as possible so people's data aren't at risk. They're not. With companies like Google, for example, you have a problem where the people are now the product, and they're just being sold out to ad agencies, or they're having. It was, I believe, it was Facebook very recently that was doing experiments with manipulating human psychology by um, changing what was in their feed. Uh, that's I think that's pretty immoral. So we want to avoid systems like that that just give one group immense power over all these different people that use their systems. And decentralization and blockchain are really the way that we think that's going to be done. And of course, data privacy is of the utmost importance here, because if we have people actually running their lives on these systems, it has to be encrypted.
There are different networks out there, layer two networks, right? With the ZK feature, like if you're looking at like say like EVM chains that are have a privacy component to what they're doing. How is secret network different from some of the other networks and layers that are trying to do that?
So the problem with ZKs is that it's either very efficient or it ends up somehow being centralized or unencrypted. ZKs are very useful for very specific functions, like if you're just sending money back and forth with each other, like with Zcash, for example. But once you start developing like an actual suite of diverse products, that's where you begin running into problems with ZK proofs. Um, and it's very, very difficult to develop a generalized smart contract chain with privacy because there are a lot of there are a lot of methods that don't really work for a general solution. Right now, Secret Network is the only one that actually functions for a general smart contract network. Um, there are some others that are on the horizon that we're very interested in seeing how they develop, but right now, Secret Network is where it's at, so that's where we are.
Great. Now, privacy has been a hot topic. You mentioned that we don't really know what's to come from a regulation standpoint. How is Secret Network preparing and being able to pivot in different directions just with as these regulatory as these regulations evolve, I guess.
Yeah, so it's a difficult world we live in with all those regulations, but Secret Network had a solution from the get go, which is allowing users to control their auditability. So you can hand out viewing keys or viewing permits to people who want to look at your data, but the there is no one other than the person who owns the data that has that power. So it's equivalent to if you own a house, you can't have the person that sold you that house come unlock it for the police. The police have to get the homeowner to come in and unlock it from the inside. Of course, in that analogy, the police could still break down the door, so it leaves that open. But in general, it brings the authority and the responsibility to the individual data holders. Um, and that's how we make this work. Whereas if we made it totally hidden, so you yourself couldn't even share your own data, that's where we would run into severe problems. But giving everyone the power to comply with the law and whatever regulations there are, if they're getting audited for the IRS, for example, with the IRS, for example, we want you to have the power to give that information over to them to prove what your transactions were and what your activities were. Um, but it's solely within the responsibility of the individual rather than the power of someone else who can come along and abuse it as well.
I imagine there's a fine line there between just preserving trust and privacy and at the same time, abiding the law.
Yeah, it's difficult because there's not one opinion on how to do it. I have had disagreements with members of Secret Labs who are the protocol level developers on some things about what should be public versus private or shareable on Secret Network, and there are um, there are some things that are public, like for example the um, gas fees are public, and I am of the mind that everything should be private unless shared by the individual. But there's it's it's a debate. Like it's not a single monolithic idea on what privacy should be, um, because there's questions about general blockchain auditability and things like that. So it's almost kind of philosophical. Like you have to get a little bit into morality and philosophical discussions about what you want to sacrifice in order to make a private blockchain work.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read into it, but I kept seeing like Secret Network was making some headlines lately and how it's not as private as you think it is. And I feel like that headline is much, I mean, I haven't read it, but I would imagine it's a lot more scarier than it really is because yes, there's a certain privacy component to it, but to a certain extent, right? Because at the end of the day, you still have to abide by the law, and there's regulations to take into consideration as well. Otherwise, you can't really, operate in the most optimal way. I mean, do you? What are your thoughts on that? Is that a pretty fair statement?
About secret not being as secure as people think it is, I would say. Are we talking about the SGX thing that went down?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. I think that's what's been making headlines.
yeah. So it's yes and no. SGX has had, it's been cracked, but there are some applications that have very good data handling protocols that actually didn't allow anything to be leaked. So it's not all of Secret Network that got cracked. Like for example, Alter, they handle data in such a way where nothing actually got revealed, no messages got revealed, because they have a separate encryption layer on top of it, and they just use the secret smart contracts to verify things on the back end. Um, and then there are password managers that double encrypt things as well. But there are some applications that did things like just store Bitcoin seed phrases on chain, and that you don't want to do. It's the data practices that should be used with SGX are not new. There are other groups that use SGX, not on blockchain, but they adopt similar practices where you have to have multiple layers of security. Secret Network is just one of those, and then within your application itself, it's good to have another layer built on top, and then the two. You get the two to mesh well, and you have a very tight, decentralized, secure system.
Got it. I mean, what's your overall view on security as a whole from, the applications that are being built aside from, as you mentioned, the Bitcoin seed phrase being stored on chain?
I think a lot of the ones that are thriving have a good security system set up, but a lot of the smaller ones that might have been more hype focused didn't really go too far into um, how exactly their security works or how everything works on the back end, and how to get SGX to work with their systems in such a way where even if SGX failed, it would their system would still run privately. Um, so yeah, things like Alter, they're a big established group. They're pretty good, but things like I keep forgetting their name. They're not fully launched yet, but it was it was uh, a cross chain system to essentially, I think, use as like a bridge or wallet to sign transactions for other chains. I believe is what it was. They were. I actually haven't even heard of them before it was revealed that they were storing things on chain. Um, so that goes to show how small they are. But the bigger groups have better data privacy systems that they've been considering and implementing.
How has the Secret Foundation? How have they been? what role have they been taking in all this from like a security standpoint?
That would be a good question for the Secret Foundation, and not as good of a question for me, because I will say that their uh, Secret Foundation is the first to know about things, and the DApp developers on the network did find out about the SGX failure a little bit ahead of the rest of the public. But I do know that Secret Foundation was doing things behind the scene, working with Secret Labs and working with Intel to get it fixed. The SGX problem to get fixed before it actually got made public, and then the the flaw in SGX was actually discovered by white hat hackers originally, and then it was brought directly to Secret Network and Intel, and they were all working together to get that fixed behind the scenes as well. I'm sure they can give you more details about what exactly they were doing once all of this like blows over. But for now, I don't know all the details about what they've been doing behind the scenes to fix it.
Let's transition over to like Trivium and
Mm-hmm.
what you've been working on. Um, for for Trivium, I mean, you mentioned that you're brainstorming a lot of different applications. You're building a lot of different applications. What is it that you need now in order to help you continue to evolve?
We need more developers. So we're a very small team, and this surprises people that see what we make because we make a ton of stuff. But we're only two people. It's myself and my business partner, Michael. Um, we really are going to need some more smart contract developers, more front end developers to start putting out larger suites of applications because at this point we're already not sleeping. So I would like to sleep again sometime in the near future.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and to do that, we're looking for funding sometime in the near future, like VC help, stuff like that. And I already have a couple people in mind for who the first people we might be hiring are going to be. Some people that have been around Secret Network for a while and really proven themselves with some of the stuff that they've developed. Um, so I'm very excited to work with them in the future. But of course, we want to be able to pay them. So that's where the VCs come in, and we'll be delving into that territory for the first time very soon.
Yeah, when I hear from projects that they need funding, it's usually because they are kind of going downhill, underwater. But it's nice to hear the other side of it, where your problem is you're just expanding so fast that you can't keep up with everything, and you need the funding in order to help continue that expansion. So I'm happy to hear that during that in the short term, these market conditions, they're not slowing you down, and you're just ramping up from here. That's
Yeah, it's
that's
it's a good problem to have.
it
I mean,
is.
of
It
course,
is.
yeah, of course, the bear market is rough, but we're doing pretty well, and we just want to get bigger and better. So we're ready to seize the bull market when it comes around.
Absolutely. Where can people follow along on your journey?
So we do have a Twitter. It is at Trivium Node. We also have a Discord channel, and we talk about some of the stuff that we're doing a little bit ahead of time in there. So like updates with smart contracts or things like that. And then any notifications about things when we launch them, stuff like that. We also do have a Certup Discord server as well. And that is I have to look up what the Twitter handle off the top of my head. I don't know the Twitter handle for that one. I should though because we
You didn't realize you were being tested today.
yeah, okay, it's cert_up. Got it. Okay, CERT_UP.
Okay,
Um,
great. And I'll be sure to include the links in the description. Luke, any parting thoughts for the listeners?
look forward to the things that we're going to be putting out, and we're going to be taking the world by storm. Yeah, get excited.
I'm excited to hear that. Awesome. Thanks so much for your time, Luke.
Thank you for interviewing me.